Welcome to episode 32 of Oscar Sunday. I'm Austin Johnson.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And today we will be talking about Chinatown from 1974, which received 11 nominations at the 47th Academy Awards. We got some 1974 talk coming, 47th Academy Awards talk coming, of course, and some awards for Connor and I to give out to Chinatown later on. But where do we begin with this monster of a movie that has obviously controversy riddled around it because of the director? And the plot itself is quite dark when you realize who the director is. But we got Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway, Robert Towne, Roman Polanski, Robert Evans, Jerry Goldsmith, John A. Alonzo, and Sam Osteen. All these people are involved in the same film. Connor, where do you want to begin?
Oh, Chinatown is one of those films that changes the game. We've talked about this idea a lot on this show and on Filmgazm, that there are films out there where you can kind of tell that after this came out, things were never quite the same. Chinatown is one of those films. And I think that without this film, Jack Nicholson's career goes in a whole different direction. Roman Polanski's career goes in a whole different direction. This movie needed to happen to make them the mega stars that they became. And
yeah,
it is pretty damn flawless. It's a remarkable modern noir thriller that keeps you guessing the whole time. You think you know what's going on. You're not even fucking close the whole time. I love how the whole water thing is a red herring the entire time. That's completely meaningless to the real story. And to see John Huston play such a vile piece of shit is really something. So that you could really kind of go anywhere with this one.
Yeah. I didn't even, mention John Huston, who, of course, we've kind of, grown attached to through this show. So it's very cool. There's just a bunch of people who are, of course, like you said, kind of explode after this movie. And there's just people here who, as far as Oscar Sunday goes, this show, they have nominations out the wazoo. If you look at all these people, I mean, Jack Nicholson alone, he's a guy we talked about on our episode that was based around 5 Easy Pieces, and we got to really explore his, kind of academy cabinet, I guess you could say, because he has multiple wins and obviously multiple nominations. So I'm going to go ahead and bring those back up to start us off here. Because why not? Jack Nicholson, one of the best to ever do it. And Chinatown is arguably his best role of all time. So we have Eyzaguirre. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. We have 5 Easy Pieces. He was nominated for Best Actor. We have The Last Detail. He was nominated for Best Actor. Chinatown. He was nominated for Best Actor. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He won for Best Actor. Reds, nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Terms of Endearment, won for Best Supporting Actor. Prizzi's Honor, nominated for Best Actor. Ironweed, nominated for Best Actor. We got a few more. A Few Good Men, nominated for Best Actor. As Good as It Gets, winner for Best Actor. About Schmidt, nominated for Best Actor. That is one of the most impressive runs for any actor as far as the Academy goes. So where do you see Chinatown when it comes to Nicholson and these kind of movies here? Or where do you see Chinatown in the ranks?
In terms of his nominations, I mean, that's a 5-decade spread there, and that's impressive.
Yes.
And Chinatown does rank among the best. He's pretty amazing in this. He's pretty much just playing kind of, Jack, but we love Jack. I mean, you can see like elements of the Joker here. You can see a little bit of R.P. McMurphy. Like, there's a lot that came out of Jake Gittes. And I think that's my favorite thing about this role is all the different pieces of Jack you can see in future performances.
Yeah, for sure. It's, a precursor to, his, I think this in 5 Easy Pieces, and I have not seen the detail. I've heard it's great. I can't wait to check that one out and kind of complete that early run there, because Eyzaguirre, that's the one that starts it off. He's incredible, and he kind of shapes this stuff and then becomes immediately one of the best in the game with this movie, with this role. And then One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest a year later. It's just not a lot of people can pull that off, and that's how you prove that you're one of the greats. and he kind of sustained that, like you said, for 5 decades, kind of sustained that greatness. You know, obviously when we talked about him in Five Easy Pieces, we brought up how he's just always around, you know, pop culture wise throughout the, you know, 80s, especially with the Showtime Lakers and all that stuff. And he's just, it's fucking Jack, you know. You and I have a serious connection, of course, to The Shining. You know, we kind of, you know, was a pillar of this podcast, you know, doing Filmgazm, right? Shining was the first episode that we did, and it's a special movie, and he's a huge part of that. And so anytime we get to talk about Jack, it's great. But we're going to talk about him a lot, I think, throughout this episode. So let's move on to Faye Dunaway, someone that we actually have watched 2 movies of this week. We saw The Towering Inferno, and Chinatown, of course. What were the other 3 movies we watched, Connor?
That would be The Conversation, Lenny, and Godfather Part 2.
Exactly. And those are of course, the 5 nominees for Best Picture at the 47th Academy Awards. Chinatown didn't win, but we went ahead. We've seen Godfather Part 2. We've seen The Conversation. You hadn't seen Lenny yet. You're like, fuck it. Let's go ahead and see that. Neither of us had seen The Towering Inferno. Fuck it. All 5 of these movies are awesome. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. But it was kind of like a Faye Dunaway week without even trying. And she is spectacular. The more and more I watch her, I recently watched 3 Days of the Condor. She's awesome in that, alongside Robert Redford. You know, we can most certainly go down her run here if you would like, Sir Connor. She somehow acts alongside, of course, Jack Nicholson in this, and dare I say, you know, rivals him in some scenes, because to handle what he's thrown at her and to just, you know, handle it. I love when actors are able to, in those dramatic scenes, just with their facial expressions, handle whatever the other person is doing that's kind of crazy. And Jack is certainly throwing a lot of acting at her. You know, it's incredible stuff. But Faye is, you know, almost 80 years old now. So she's been around for a long time. Of course, Network is a very popular movie as well. I don't want to miss that one. But let's get to her nominations. She has 1 win altogether and 3 nominations altogether. That'd be Bonnie and Clyde, 1968. Movie came out in 1967. Chinatown, and Network. That's one she got the win for. So we have Jack and Faye alongside each other. Anytime you have a multiple nominated actors alongside each other, we have to mention on this show. Of course. Roman Polanski. Let's go ahead and talk about the man who directed this film. We had some fun with Jack and Faye. They're both incredible. We're going to be, of course, when we give out awards, I think they're going to be brought up inevitably.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the 47th Academy Awards, they're both nominated. So we're going to have fun with that. Polanski is someone that has to be brought up here. This is obviously a guy who we kind of detest, and as all people should. And, you know, major film fans, I think there's plenty out there who just kind of disown his work, you know?
Yeah.
Just fuck it. You push it to the side, and I get it, you know? I get it. And I especially get it when, you know, maybe people in the industry are kind of like upset about him still winning awards, you know? I get it. It's fucked up. It's really fucked up. It's really messed up when he wins an Oscar for The Pianist, you know? Come on, what are we doing here? This guy, you know, Roman Polanski, of course, you know, if you don't know what he was accused of, then I don't know where you've been. I don't know why you're listening to this podcast. That'd be weird. You know, in the late 70s, he's accused of rape and essentially fled the country, right? So, and he's not allowed to come back here. Otherwise, he'll be arrested and thrown in prison. The Academy finally, you know, took some action with him. It took way too long. That's one of the things I hate about the Academy, is how long it took for them to make such an easy decision, right? But we absolutely have to talk about him because he is in the movie and he's directing the film. And of course, you and I are huge fans of Rosemary's Baby, and obviously Chinatown, and it's the base of an episode here. And I feel conflicted about that, of course, choosing a Roman Polanski film to center an episode around, but I think it's a place to have a conversation about something that you and I feel strongly about, which is trying to realize that Chinatown has a lot of people involved in it. Not all of them deserve to be in prison. And I see it as very much a team effort, just like all films. And Roman Polanski, yes, is the director. He didn't write it, though. That was Sir Robert Towne, the only guy who won an Oscar out of this movie. And I think there's so many things in play with each movie that he was a part of that you can't just call it a Roman Polanski film and just push it to the side. That would be pushing Faye Dunaway to the side. That'd be pushing Jack Nicholson to the side. That'd be pushing Jerry Goldsmith to the side, Sam Osteen, all these people that were involved. And I don't really care to do that with every movie, that has someone involved that sucks. I think you feel similarly.
Yeah, I've always been a strong proponent of separating the men from the work. And, especially in recent years, it's become tougher and tougher to do that, with Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein and these things finally coming to light. It's hard to justify films that were made by these people. But you have to. Otherwise, it's really hard to pretty much enjoy anything that comes out of Hollywood because there's a lot of suffering that's, that kind of makes these things happen. It's unfortunate, but we all like to think it doesn't happen. But Hollywood's a dark place. Hollywood, a lot of the films that come out of Hollywood are made on just, empty promises and shattered dreams. And that's something you kind of have to come to terms with if you're going to be a film buff. Films like Chinatown and Rosemary's Baby and The Pianist and Tess, these are masterpieces made by a rapist. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And I don't think the movie should have to suffer for that because the movie didn't do anything wrong. The product is innocent. And that's pretty much what we're trying to say here. We embrace Chinatown for reasons that are our own. We respect Jack Nicholson. We respect Faye Dunaway. We respect Robert Towne. We do not respect Roman Polanski. Not after what he did. And
no,
I'm glad that the Academy finally expelled him. He had the balls to try to sue his way back in. And now he's just, he's a pariah, finally. Not just, nationally, but internationally. And we will, this won't be the last Polanski film we cover on this podcast or on Filmgazm. He's got a ton of films that we want to talk about. Because once the film is made, once the art is created, it belongs to the masses. It belongs to us. It's no longer just Polanski's movie. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And, with that being said, you've known me for long enough now, like Chinatown is, I see it as, one of the better movies I've ever seen, one of the better productions altogether I've ever seen, but it's one of my favorite movies. When I first watched it, I remember buying it at Best Buy on Blu-ray and throwing it on. It was in 2000. It was when I was living in Houston. I remember I was working at the airport there, and it was in 2016, like early 2016. And I remember, buying it and just putting it on and kind of, getting on the internet and reading about it and just kind of like reckoning with what we're talking about here. Just coming to terms with it. Wow, fuck. But this is really good. And I don't, feeling conflicted and going through those thoughts of reminding yourself that not everything is negative just because this person, quite frankly, has lived a false life, in my opinion, where he should be in prison,
Yeah.
And that very much sucks, like very much so. It's hard to reckon with, but I would be silly to not call it, deep down when I watch it, I'm just absolutely floored by everything that's going on. Well, real quick, let's go through them. Roman Polanski was nominated for Best Writing Screenplay based on a material from another medium, Rosemary's Baby. That movie came out in 1968, absolute classic. Chinatown, he was nominated for Best Director. Tess, he was nominated for Best Director, also a very good movie. The Pianist, he was nominated for Best Picture, of course, because he shared that one with Robert Ben Moussa and Alain Sarde. And then he won Best Director for The Pianist. Now, all these nominations shouldn't really be there, and that's very frustrating. But like I said, I'm going to stand by. I think all of the films here that are represented are good movies. I do. If you just look at them on paper, I understand why they're nominated, but I don't know why he's nominated. And that I have an issue with, and I think that's the stuff that the Academy has to, like, moving forward. And that's something that you and I are going to be watching, and we'll always talk about on the show, is that we want to see changes. We always want to see changes. We want to see it adapt. We want to see the Oscars become the Oscars we want to fucking see on TV every year. We want it to be that awesome show that represents actually the films that are being made by filmmakers that are truly trying to give to the craft, to the medium. And that would be a cool day if we saw that, if we really saw that. But like you said, Hollywood is a dark place, and Roman Polanski is certainly a figure of that term.
Yeah, and it's weird that for so long he got a pass, like, by everybody. I mean, Tess, that came out 3 years after the scandal and after he fled, and he got a nomination for directing. I mean, that's fucked up. 3 years after this, everyone knew exactly who he was for decades. Nobody cared. That's the worst part of this whole thing, is nobody gave a shit.
Yeah.
And it took literally the fall of Harvey Weinstein for people to finally not accept this kind of shit anymore. And I'm glad that's finally happened, but it should have happened so long ago. This never should have been acceptable. Yeah. Any situation where you can get away with raping a teenager is horrible and detestable. And this, I just don't know. The more I think about it, the more I just don't understand it. But
exactly. It kind of just, like, hurts your brain. You're like, the movie should just be, it shouldn't be nominated for awards and stuff like that. Come on.
Well, I don't know, because Tess is a great movie, and I don't want that to be, Chinatown. I get why it was nominated. This came out 3 years before everything happened, so there was no.
Prior to Rosemary's Baby. Yeah.
But Tess and The Pianist are pretty unforgivable for the Academy to award him like that. Award the film, I think, is fine. The film
that's different. Yeah, that's different. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, man. These are the tough conversations we have. I don't want to run from them. I think that's what people have done for too long, including people who look like me, young white males who just fucking want to, look away from the real things that are happening and not have those hard conversations. And sometimes you gotta, like, wake up a little bit, and I think I'm always going to be battling with this movie. I always will be. And Roman Polanski, just Jesus, the guy. The guy's frustrating as hell. So let's move on to Robert Towne. This guy's been nominated 4 times altogether. And he has 1 win for Chinatown. He was nominated for The Last Detail. I would love to see that, man. He's where, you team up with Jack Nicholson. That's really cool. Then he, won for Chinatown. That's a year after The Last Detail. And then Shampoo. This is a film I got to see. He shared this nomination, with Warren Beatty. Original screenplay wrote together. I got to see that movie, man. I've heard great things. And then we have Greystroke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, 1984. Best writing, screenplay based on another medium. Of course, he was nominated. Shared that one with Michael Austin. Have not seen that one.
Nah, man. Tarzan. That's so weird. You forget how many different versions of Tarzan there have been. I mean, that's been, public domain story since, like, the late 1800s. And it's just kind of been, fair game for anyone who wants to give it a shot. Unbelievable.
Crazy, man. Have you ever seen Shampoo or heard anything about it?
I have not. I've heard the name, but I have never looked into the film.
Yeah, man. It's something I just kind of hear. It's one of those whatever underground kind of hipster whatever Oscar nominated movies, similar to I think there's a movie we'll talk about later, directed by John Cassavetes, that I think is kind of falls into that category.
Well, Warren Beatty's a filmmaker I really haven't explored yet. I've seen a few of his acting roles, but as far as directing and writing, I just haven't, pursued that yet. And I'd like to. He's a guy I'd like to have a reason to dig into.
Hell yeah, man. All right, we got a next guy here who it'll be, I think it's about a year and a half ago now he passed away. We're going to bring up Robert Evans. Oof, what a career, this guy. He, is a producer. One of those names that you actually recognize from producers, right? We know all these directors and writers and stuff, and Robert Evans is a producer that you can kind of like see because there's not a lot of people who look like him.
No.
And just look at his IMDb page. This guy's an absolute legend. He was only nominated for this one Oscar right here for Chinatown for Best Picture, obviously. But he has a career that I think we should just kind of bring up here, and I want to hear if you have a connection to any of these movies. We'll go down to the bottom here. We got Chinatown, Marathon Man, Black Sunday, Urban Cowboy, Players, Popeye, The Cotton Club, The Two Jakes, Sliver, Jade, The Phantom, The Saint, The Out of Towners, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Just a wacky career. And he was an uncredited producer. This is, a whole nother conversation on The Godfather, part 1 and 2. And I've read some things, about that. And again, I really do think it's a whole nother can of worms that we could talk about when we get to do Godfather on this show. Because of course, when we do a proper Best Picture showdown, it'll be around Godfather Part 2, because Chinatown lost to it, quite frankly, and that's always a fun conversation. But yeah, Robert Evans is a guy who just kind of did all kinds of random films and good movies and B movies. He clearly loved just doing his job, that's cool to see.
For sure, man. He's unique. I think it's cool that he produced the sequel to Chinatown that nobody really knows about, The Two Jakes.
Yeah, nobody talks about that one. Yeah,
nobody at all, because I heard it was terrible. I haven't watched it because I know it's gonna suck. Popeye, what another oddball. Robin Williams' first mainstream film, and
no kidding,
a weird watch. Popeye. Any live action cartoon is gonna be fucking weird. And then Marathon Man is just such a classic. That's a bitchin' film. So yeah, it got weird towards the end. He started doing some rom-coms, but not a bad resume.
Yeah. I was kind of like blown away when I looked at it all together. I was like, whoa, you never know. When you look at IMDb and you just click on that filmography, you never know what's going to come up. And here's another guy who I think you probably have some connections to here. Jerry Goldsmith. Oh man, he's just a wonderful, wonderful composer.
Oh my god!
And this guy, another guy who's not with us anymore. He passed away in 2004. What movie do you want to start with? Because there's a couple here that I really, really love that he's a part of.
Jerry Goldsmith is one of the most just legendary composers in film history. He did so many masterpieces, but I immediately go straight to The Omen.
Oh, same. And honestly, I can't go through the IMDb. I can't do it. It's too long. If you scroll through, it's going to take you a minute to scroll through. This guy's involved. He's involved in TV and orchestras and movies and TV movies and all conducting and composing and doing this. And it's just everywhere. Everywhere, man. I can't believe it. I was actually surprised. I know this is one of your favorites. I believe I came across The Mummy.
Yeah, The Mummy was a big one.
Yeah,
that was that was so cool. That score has been in my head since I was a kid, and weirdly enough, we're doing that on Filmgazm on Wednesday. So pretty cool.
Exactly. That's kind of why I wanted to bring it up. And L.A. Confidential. I mean, come on, this guy. You just kind of click on go on any year here, and you find that he works on like 3 or 4 things, and they're all cool.
Small Soldiers.
Pretty amazing. Yes.
Fucking hell. Mind if I go through his nominations? This is just
Of course, dude. Go for it. I mean, yeah, Gladiator. Yeah, go for
it. So he was nominated 1962 to 1998, and it is quite a resume. 1962, Freud. 1965, A Patch of Blue. 1966, The Sand Pebbles. 1968, Planet of the Apes. 1970, Patton. 1973, Papillon. 1974, Chinatown. 1975, The Wind and the Lion. 2 in 76, he won for score for The Omen, nominated for Best Song, Ave Satani, Hail Satan. I love that so much.
Who says whore doesn't get recognized?
1978, The Boys from Brazil. 1979, Star Trek The Motion Picture. 1982, Poltergeist. 1983, Under Fire. 1986, Hoosiers. 1992, Basic Instinct. 1997, LA Confidential. And 1998, Mulan. And that's just his nominations.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, Ennio Morricone, look out.
280 credits for music. That is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is why we got to bring these people up. There's a reason Chinatown works so well, because everyone is good at their job.
And he captures this perfect, like, late 40s Humphrey Bogart style music that just works so well for Chinatown. It makes it timeless. It's fucking phenomenal.
Well, yeah, and it puts Jack Nicholson in a place when you think about, like, I love that you brought up Bogey. When you think about guys who can pull off, the hat and the suit, and it's just the fucking, sunset in Los Angeles.
If the Maltese Falcon,
I mean, there's not a lot of people who do that kind of stuff anymore.
If the Maltese Falcon had been made after the Hays Code, this is the movie it would have been. Like, that's what I see.
Yes.
I see Chinatown as the movie they all wanted to make in the 40s, but they couldn't. And now they can. And here we go. We have this movie that is the same style and the same idea as film noir films, but after the fact and after the Hays Code is abolished, and now they can go as far as they want to go. It's wonderful. Films like this, constantly remind you that the Hays Code was bullshit that never should have happened in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something that you and I detest. Not for us, not for film fans. The old Hays Code. Jerry Goldsmith, just an absolute icon. Of course, he will come up, of course, when we talk about the Ennio Morricone Award. So stick with us. Let's talk about. We got a couple more guys I want to bring up here. Some guys that maybe don't get enough praise. The first one would be the cinematographer John A. Alonzo. Now, when you think Chinatown, you think about the camera. You think about how well it moves, how steady this film is, and with Polanski and Alonzo behind the camera, it's a pretty nice team. John A. Alonzo was born right here in Texas in 1934. He passed away in 2001. This is another guy that I just was kind of surprised when I looked at his run. So I'll bring up real quick just his nomination is for Chinatown. Just like Robert Evans, he has the one nomination, but there's so much more. There's so much more when you go down again on IMDb. We love this website. You go down to the filmography, and it's pretty long. He's got 83 credits for cinematography. Does anything stick out to you when you just kind of scroll through? Because it is long.
Yeah, a film we can't seem to get away from for some reason. Norma Ray.
Bang, bang, bang. I knew it. I was hoping that's the one you would see.
And it makes sense. I can tell. I can tell it's the same man. The guy has an eye. And then also, Scarface. I mean, fucking come on.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Scarface, from Chinatown to Scarface in a 10-year span. I like that. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going through here trying to scan through. It is, give you a headache just looking at all of these titles, and it makes me curious. I want to see some of these films if he's involved because he obviously knows what he's doing. Um, Chinatown, it stuck out to me when I first saw it because of things I didn't really know that I was going to fall in love with, right? But simple things of the camera deciding to use a rear view mirror to capture a scene, using the binoculars to capture a whole scene, these different things that happen throughout Chinatown. There's, kind of next level stuff, it's very precise and pristine filmmaking. And I think John A. Alonso is a guy that we should bring up when we talk about this. And the next guy we're going to bring up, this is the last individual before we get into the 47th Academy Awards. Bear with us. We got Sam Osteen, and that is who edited Chinatown. Now, this is another person or individual, or, this is a job that people I don't think talk about enough, right?
Yeah.
Is someone literally has to sit in a room and chop this shit down and figure out serious decision making and cuts. And it's not an easy job, right? And it's ultimately something that it's something that we just don't appreciate. And it's something that with Chinatown is so interesting because, it's Roman Polanski. It's like, no, but look at all these other things that are involved that need to happen for it to be what it is. And that's, people just thinking it's all the director's the power, and that's all that matters. And it's just not true. It's not true. And you need a guy like Sam Osteen to make Chinatown work.
The editing room is where the movie is made. Essentially, it's shot, but there's, 4, 5, 6 hours of footage that they have to compile into a functioning narrative. And that's what happens in the editing room. Those are the real heroes here, really.
Yeah. And, Sam Osteen is nominated 3 times altogether at the Academy Awards. And that'd be for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Chinatown, and Silkwood.
Very nice.
Silkwood's a film that you and I just kind of we were hanging out and we just kind of like read a little bit about and we're like, whoa, that's something maybe we should do on Oscar Sunday. And so it's cool to see it come up here. It's directed by Mike Nichols, written by Nora Ephron, starring Meryl Streep and Kurt Russell and Cher. Yeah, I just think that's something that we got to do here. It's nominated for 5 Oscars. Again, Sam Osteen. Those 3 films alone, the ones that are just nominated, very impressive, right?
Yeah.
But look at his filmography on IMDb.
Oh my Lord.
And he's got 34 credits. And this guy, Catch 22, Cool Hand Luke. I'm just naming shit that I see real quick. Rosemary's Baby. Hey, The Graduate. Decent flicks. Hurricane. There's
Frantic.
Silkwood. Frantic. Yeah. Working Girl. I don't, this is why Chinatown is good. Is because all of these people are working on it. All of them at once on the same 2-hour film. And that's not to mention who might steal the entire show. John Huston.
Oh, hell yeah.
A titan of the game in the film industry altogether. And an absolutely frightening performance in Chinatown.
For sure, John Huston, part of a filmmaking dynasty that's still active today, still pumping out stars. It's fucking amazing, starting with his dad, Walter. And just, now it's Jack Huston, who's, an up-and-comer on Boardwalk Empire, is in that Ben-Hur remake. It's insane, the talent in this family.
Yeah, it's not right. I mean, again, if you've listened to this show, thank you. But then you probably know that I'll never shut up about Treasure of the Sierra Madre from 1948. And John Huston, wrote and directed that sucker. So he's an all-time guy. And you'll see him sprinkled throughout movies in a way that, that just excites you. You're like, oh shit, he's involved in this and this and this and this. Just on IMDb, the 4 movies here at the top are Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Chinatown, The African Queen, and Moby Dick. such a, immediately, even if you hadn't seen those, immediately you're just like, holy hell, I need to know what's going on here. He provides intrigue right away. His career, and he's a guy I cannot wait to keep on seeing and popping up in stuff. And he's a 2-time Oscar winner. He's a guy that has a career similar to Jack's, where it just spans over decades. It goes over 4 decades, dude.
Yeah.
I'll go over him real quick. He's nominated for Best Writing for Dr. Ehrlich's Magic Bullet, Best Writing for Maltese Falcon, also Sergeant York, that came out the same year. Jesus Christ. He won for Best Director and won Best Writing for Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and then was nominated for Best Writing for The Asphalt Jungle, Best Director, Asphalt Jungle nomination, nominated for Best Director and Screenplay for The African Queen, nominated Best Picture for Moulin Rouge, 1953, and Best Director, nominated for Best Writing for Heaven Knows, Mr. Allison, nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role, The Cardinal, Best Writing, The Man Who Would Be King, and then Best Director nomination, Prizzi's Honor. Yeah, it just goes on. These guys give you a headache. It's fucking incredible, man. I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And not just that, but like every part of filmmaking that John Huston did. He was a writer, he was a director, he was an actor. Like he did everything. And he fucking rocked at all parts of it. He's terrifying in Chinatown. It's such an understated performance, but you get the vibe that this guy could just kill Jake whenever he wants and end all this. He has that kind of power, and you feel that. It's remarkable, and I love that he's here. He didn't need to do this, but here he is. He clearly likes it.
Yeah. He's like, I think I can do that. I think I'm the man for the job.
And I'm sure it didn't hurt. I'm sure it didn't hurt that Jack was dating his daughter at the time.
That's true. That could be a kicker right there.
Yeah.
Oh, but man, like you said, it's an incredible performance, and a guy that, I can't wait to keep, discovering stuff that he's done and been a part of. And
looking at his IMDb,
I'm down for that.
Yeah, looking at his IMDb, I'm just now realizing that he's the guy narrating the prologue of The Black Cauldron, one of my favorite old school Disney movies. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah, he's Gandalf the Grey in the cartoon version of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit that came out in the 70s. Jesus
incredible. Oh man, I love it. I absolutely love it.
I'm gonna find out one day he's got like an extra cameo in Back to the Future or some shit. Why not?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. As we keep learning, just more and more pops up, and you realize how much you didn't know before. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of, just kind of this undertaking of just watching movies nonstop and learning and growing. And I love it. I love it so much. And I'm excited to talk about the 47th Academy Awards, because you and I, we did our homework this week. You were able to see Lenny for the first time and The Towering Inferno for the first time. I was able to finally see The Towering Inferno for the first time. And we certainly have some stuff to say about these flicks. And of course we have something to say about The Conversation and Godfather Part 2. And of course we have things to say about Chinatown, as we've been talking about it the entire episode, and we will continue. Where do you want to start here? Do you want to start with the, I think it's music. Is that the one at the bottom on IMDb there?
Yeah, we like to start from the bottom, work our way up. So,
yes, sir. Let's do it.
Best Original Dramatic Score, Jerry Goldsmith. He was up against John Williams for The Towering Inferno, Alex North for Shanks, Richard Rodney Bennett for Murder on the Orient Express. Sorry, I don't know why I listed there. And the winner, Nino Rota and Carmine Coppola for The Godfather Part 2. And as good as the music is in Chinatown, I mean, nobody was beating Nino Rota for Godfather 2. The music of the Godfather franchise is kind of, impossible to defeat. The only reason the first time lost is because Nino Rota got his nomination withdrawn because he had recycled music for the score. But he didn't do that this time, and he won.
Yes, yeah. Well, we can invite him back. He didn't do it this time. Isn't it crazy to see Jerry Goldsmith and John Williams in the same category?
John Williams, I love that he did Towering Inferno. It's so weird. It's great music.
Well, Towering Inferno is loaded with superstars, and it kind of, I don't even know if it benefits from it, or it is an absolute all-star cast.
Yeah.
And then of course you have guys like John Williams in the background, similar to what's happening in Chinatown. It makes sense why Towering Inferno is a good, solid flick, because of all the people working in it. Jesus Christ. I couldn't believe when I was like listening to the music, I was like, I feel like I know this. I feel this, like we grew up with this shit. Everyone does.
It's just odd to see a non-Spielberg Lucas John Williams movie. Because there's so few of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it is remarkable. And as far as, the Towering Inferno's cast, that was just what they did in the 70s. They got as many big name actors as they could. They put them in some disaster movie, and it was hugely profitable. But in the Towering Inferno's case, they actually tried to make it a good story, and it worked. And, I'll have more to say about that later.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I think Godfather Part 2, like you said earlier, it's the winner of this, as far as, for these 5 movies, I think, for sure. And I do think Chinatown has something to say, has moments where the score is just a 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10 moments with the score. But overall, Godfather Part 2 is something else.
For sure. This was a stacked year. It's really tough to make these decisions.
Well, yeah, Godfather Part 2 in Chinatown going pretty much neck and neck with nominations, 11 each. And of course, Godfather Part 2 has the last laugh with just the wins.
Best film editing. We have The Longest Yard, Earthquake, Chinatown, Blazing Saddles, and the winner, The Towering Inferno. And I love that Blazing Saddles is there, just peppered throughout this Oscars, because you never see parody movies get this kind of attention. So cool.
Yeah. The Oscars are certainly interesting in that way, right? Where we've learned, you and I have learned that prior to, say, we're looking at the 47th Academy Awards, so it's 1975 for this ceremony. I would say post 60th Academy Awards, like, you just would never see that happen. Never, ever, ever. So it is very rare, for a film like that to get some nominations, and I just don't see it happening now,
God.
Borat getting that screenplay nomination is one of the very few things you see, throughout the past, couple decades, where you see something like that happening. You would more often see a shout out to a film, like a straight comedy film that's really trying some awesome stuff, like Bridesmaids was nominated for best screenplay. And you're like, yeah, cool. Hell yeah. That's pretty dope. Shrek, shit like that. You really enjoy when, like, a movie that's really trying to be funny and, original. But Blazing Saddles is different. Like you said, it's a parody, really. And it's interesting to see those here, and it's just not going to happen. I just don't see it happening very much longer. How do you feel about the genre of Jojo Rabbit, a movie that's similar, in that it's kind of, it is making fun of stuff, and it's very serious though at times.
I think that these days, the only way a comedy gets serious Oscar attention is if it's got that bit of drama. It needs to be a dramedy. It's the only way. You look at films like, Jojo Rabbit, Big Short, even Vice at times. Like, it's
Little Miss Sunshine.
Little Miss Sunshine. Like, you need the drama angle, or else they're not going to pay attention. You can't, like, a film like Step Brothers would never get touched by the Oscars. Like, the fact that Bridesmaids got nominated for screenplay and best supporting actress is kind of a miracle. It really is. And then, like, Robert Downey Jr.'s nomination for Tropic Thunder. These things do happen sometimes, but it's one in a million. Whereas,
and it might depend on the year as well,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I would say, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. But I think the reason it's there is because of the prestige of actors and Tarantino and everything they put into it. It's not in the traditional sense a straight up comedy. It would be to me, but not to the voters.
Yeah, I totally feel you. It definitely has to have a sort of substance, a sort of something else going for it. And of course, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has a lot going for it.
Absolutely.
I love it. These are the fun conversations to have about, figuring out, how unpredictable and predictable the Academy is in some years, and the streakiness of it, and how sometimes they'll, kind of follow a pattern and then break it out of nowhere. And it's interesting to look at, man. I think it's something I'm open to just kind of learning about, even though I don't love the Academy. It's a bunch of movies being documented, so I'm just always going to be interested in it. Yeah. Quite frankly, and when you get a year like 1974, it's worth it, man. It's worth it to just kind of like use it as a guide to just watch a few films. And in this case, it worked. This year is really good.
Hell yeah. So as far as film editing, I'm cool with Towering Inferno taking that one. As good as Sam Osteen did with Chinatown. Towering Inferno, that film is so put together so meticulously that it needs, like, you need a good editor to make that film work.
Yeah. I think these films are hard to even compare. Yeah. I think they're obviously doing way different things. Towering Inferno is definitely, it's a disaster movie. Just like you said, it has this really good cast and it works. And Chinatown is, it's a piece of film noir that came out in the 70s, years after that kind of style was popular and kind of rejuvenated, and was a part of this awesome 70s decade that just was changing the landscape of Hollywood altogether. And I totally understand if you want one or the other to win, but when you're talking about just the like you said, the craft of it and the challenge of it, Towering Inferno is dealing with all kinds of shit happening. And that is practical stuff, and then, effects and things that are happening nonstop. And I think, putting that together in the way they do in a 2 hour and 45-minute film that doesn't really feel like it, very impressive. Very, very impressive. I was kind of blown away by Towering Inferno. I've read mixed things, and I've, heard people who really like it, and the people who don't like it are just like, oh, this is a dumb disaster movie. And no, it's not. It's not a dumb disaster movie. Paul Newman's kicking ass, so get the hell out of here. I do think you're right when it comes down to it. When you're giving a win out with these five, there's not really a big comparison here.
Well said. Yeah, it's apples and oranges.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on to best sound, we have Chinatown, The Conversation, The Towering Inferno, Young Frankenstein, and the winner, Earthquake. I love that Young Frankenstein gets any kind of love, and it gets some decent attention here. I would have had Gene Wilder take Best Actor if it was my decision, but it's not. It is my decision to give it Best Sound.
Yeah, this is your favorite movie of the year. So, we did a episode on a film that I'm going to bring up right now that I think is totally fine to be married into this conversation. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974 horror icon, a awesome movie. And we got to do an episode on it. So much fun over on Filmgazm. Had a blast. And we did a 1974, tournament, if you will. And I set up a bracket for Connor, and it was all 1974 flicks that he's seen. And fucking Young Frankenstein won that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a masterpiece. I love that movie, man. I think it just belongs in any conversation when you're talking about awesome movies from the 70s and especially 1974.
Imagine where the like relationship between the Oscars and horror would be today if Texas Chainsaw had gotten like 6, 7, 8 nominations.
Totally different. Yeah. Yeah. Totally different.
I wish they'd come up together. I wish that the Oscars haven't shunned horror for so long. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's very here and there, very few and far between the nominations. It's like, it'll be a random nomination for whatever technical stuff, or then something like Rosemary's Baby comes out, or The Exorcist, and just kind of collects a bunch of nominations, or Get Out. Just doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen enough for us. And something that I think would be really, really fun to do is, and I've seen lists like this all over the place, is just kind of essentially selecting what you would see as like the best picture for horror each year. I think that'd be really cool if you and I just kind of went back and forth from whatever we could go back to the fucking 30s if you want, just like the Academy, go back and pick like what we think is the proper best horror movie of every year. That's something that kind of marries Filmgazm and Oscar Sunday. That's what we like to do, man. Is it's not, this show is yes, it's focusing on Oscar nominated movies, but is not ever going to shun the films that we think are also a part of a greater conversation in cinema. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre is in that conversation.
Oh yeah.
It's uber important. And so many people still just discover it and fall in love with it today. And you could say the same thing about Chinatown. You can say the same thing about Young Frankenstein. I don't know if you can say that about Towering Inferno, man. Not a lot of people know about this one.
True, but I went in blind and I fell in love with it.
Yeah, it can happen. It definitely can happen. I think it could have a reevaluation, Towering Inferno.
Yeah, and I would like to see that.
Yeah, well, that's what we like. We like to bring those kinds of conversations to the table here, and we love to see, like you said, love to see a film like Young Frankenstein. Sorry to go on that chainsaw tangent, but we love to see Young Frankenstein in the mix. That's cool.
Yeah, Young Frankenstein's in my top 5 favorite Filmgazm episodes we've ever done, because the whole movie is just me almost in character quoting this film, and it's us just laughing our asses off the whole time. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I've only seen it twice my entire life, so I was just having a blast watching you and listening to you, because it basically word for word. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Moving on to costume design, we have Chinatown, Daisy Miller, The Godfather Part 2, Murder on the Orient Express, and the winner, The Great Gatsby. This would be The Great Gatsby with Robert Redford and Mia Farrow. This is an interesting one because they all kind of reflect the same era, like with costume. There's not really a lot of variety with costume here. So I don't really know. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Daisy Miller yet. It's a Peter Bogdanovich film that I just haven't checked out. But I think if you're looking at Chinatown and Great Gatsby as kind of like equals in that regard, or a lot of people are in the same clothes, Chinatown just looks better, looks way cooler, especially now. Over time, it just, god damn, Jack looks fucking awesome the whole movie. And Faye Dunaway has got some really cool fashion going on. So I think, yeah, like you said, when you're looking at things that are similar, just choose the better one. Come on. Great Gatsby, not for me. This is a movie that I don't feel like rewatching this one or the newer one with Leo. I think it's one of Leo's poorest decisions in his entire career. And one of those that like kind of makes me question, like, if he is, like one of the greatest, right? Leo. It's like, dude, you do that shit. We talked about this with De Niro one time. We were like, god damn, he has a lot of just like, what the hell is that? And I think DiCaprio sometimes does that, not as often because he's not nearly as old, but I fear that sometimes, and I think that was one of them. The Beach being another. Yeah, I think there's a few here and there.
Gatsby for me is just kind of forgettable. It's a story that just I don't think is that good. I think it's not, it's not really relatable. It's a story about rich assholes betraying other rich assholes. Like, why would I care? And I just some classic literature I just think has not aged particularly well, and we don't like to talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, of course. F. Scott Fitzgerald. I read that book too, and I was like, this is entertaining, but it's not. Like, I think This Side of Paradise is way better. Like, those are the two books I've read of his, and I think one is definitely better than the other. I think Great Gatsby is entertaining, but not like.
No.
It wasn't this thing that I was like, I need to see a film. And of course, people disagree.
Well, the 2013 film was so odd. Baz Luhrmann does that. He takes, modern music and puts it in a period film and tries to make it quirky, but really it just comes off as off-putting, I think. And it's just, I saw it once at the movies and didn't really want to look back. I don't really have much. Yeah, I'm with you in the Gatsby boat.
Yeah, it's just not for me. Not for me.
But I keep coming back in costume design in this bunch. I keep coming back to Murder on the Orient Express. Because that movie is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I do like that one. And I actually intended on rewatching this throughout this past week, but I just didn't have time. I watched Amarcord, which won Best Foreign Film, Federico Fellini's movie. That one's really good. And then I watched that John Cassavetes film, A Woman Under the Influence, and I just didn't have time. But I do very much want to get to that one at some point, just to rewatch it and revisit it, because I remember digging it a lot. And like you said, it's got some really impressive stuff going on fashion wise.
Well, Albert Finney as Hercule Poirot and his whole, his suit, his mustache, everyone's very, everyone's costume kind of stands out in Murder. So I would give this one to Murder on the Orient Express. I think it's a very well done.
I like it. I'll stand by Chinatown, but I'm just I've seen it way more. Yeah.
Fair enough. Art direction. We have Chinatown, Earthquake, The Island at the Top of the World, The Towering Inferno, and the winner, The Godfather 2. Godfather 2's production design's pretty fantastic. Recreating, 1950s Cuba and just this whole world of, young Vito Corleone's Little Italy, and just, you believe it. So I got no problem with Godfather 2 taking this one.
Damn. I'm gonna go Chinatown here. I think it's one of the things that I have definitely fallen in love with after rewatching it a few times. This is really, really difficult. I agree with you. I kind of will. It'll be similar thoughts that you had with Godfather. I agree with you. It'll be similar thoughts for Chinatown. I think setting up, anytime LA is set up in a way that makes me kind of just dive into film the way Chinatown does. Whenever I watch it, all these things just kind of unfold as I'm watching Chinatown. I'm thinking about everything that we've talked about with these individuals. I'm thinking about the 70s. I'm thinking about the landscape and how it's changing. And it's because of the way it looks and feels. And I'm probably being biased, but I'll say I'll give this award to Chinatown just for that reason. Godfather Part 2, of course, I know I'm talking about, some people think it's the greatest movie of all time. I definitely disagree. I think the first one might be better. So we just, we have Marlon Brando in the first one. So yeah, that's a conversation we can have. And of course will always come up because it's a huge film, but I do think Chinatown rivals it. And I think it stands right next to it in this category, as far as just affecting you and taking you to a place immediately and not letting you go for over 2 hours. That's powerful stuff for two movies to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Chinatown and Godfather 2 are, they're rivals here at this award. They were the two. And any award one took, the other could have easily taken. I definitely agree with that. But Godfather 2, for me anyway, it's just everything you think about the way that Chinatown, recreates a certain feel of Los Angeles. I see that with Godfather 2, but with like New York, and just the way that they created this believable world for Vito Corleone to grow up in and become who he became. And there's something special about that personally. So I lean for The Godfather.
Fair enough, man. I'm not, like I said, I can't argue against that film.
Same.
It's
All
tough.
right.
It's tough. Yeah, they're very much rivals, and they're rivals in the way that like There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men were rivals, and just competing, and that's really cool to see. It's almost like a sport. You gotta love it.
Oh yeah, this is our the Oscars are my fucking Super Bowl. This is a sport to me. This is competitive. Like we're going back. Yeah, this whole podcast is essentially just going back through the stats. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want people to forget it, just because, again, it's documentation of film. It's this shit that's just organized and categorized, and you can use it as a reference to watch stuff or whatever you want to do with it. I think that's pretty cool.
Hell yeah, man. With that, let's go over to cinematography. This is a tough one to call. We have Chinatown, Earthquake, Lenny, Murder on the Orient Express, and The Winner of the Towering Inferno. And I would have gone to Chinatown immediately with this until I saw Lenny. And that's my vote. Lenny is so well constructed. It's so well told. And it's the camera work that leads you there. So I definitely go Lenny on this one.
I have no qualms at all with that. I was kind of waiting for that one to get brought up. For all the glory that Godfather Part 2 and Chinatown have, if there's a third one that's saying, hey, I think it's Lenny. I think Lenny is the third Bash brother. I think it's a powerful movie. Experience.
Yeah.
It's truly an experience. And Bob Fosse, that's what he does, right? He is literally trying to take you on a trip. It's like his movies are fucking drugs, and I'm obsessed with that. With that idea of him really trying to pour everything, every single little idea, into something, and it kind of works. Like Lenny is moving like nobody's business, jumping all over the place. And this is a movie that is so hard to fucking find,
Yes. That's my biggest issue with Lenny.
Yeah, I hate that. But at the same time, that's those, that happened with Norma Ray, and when you do find it and see it, I watched it through Criterion, and just, I was flabbergasted. I didn't move the entire time. When I turned it on, I just kind of sat down in a chair, and I was like, whoa. And this is months ago on my own time when I first watched Lenny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no qualms here. That's exactly my vote too. My God.
Right on. Yeah. It's told almost entirely through close-up shots, and every shot is important. It's really crazy. Lenny feels like such an important movie. And it is, in my opinion, on paper, it's a story about a comic who OD'd when he was 40. But when you look in further, it's a story of a trial of a complete mistrial of justice, in my opinion. Just censorship that even exists goes against our First Amendment rights, and the fact that he was arrested for obscenity fucking pissed me off royally. And his just desire to tell the truth about society. It's a very important film.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm really glad you were able to track it down, watch it. It's a good one. I definitely encourage listeners to seek it out. It's worth your time. Set aside a couple hours to indulge in something pretty wild.
Definitely. Thank God for Vudu. God, their selection has been so helpful for this podcast.
Renting stuff. Yeah, man. It'll come and go on Criterion. It's one of those movies that they'll keep putting on there here and there, because it's one of those kind of lost little artifacts of the 70s that we very much wanted to bring up here, and we'll continue to as we move along.
Yeah. This whole thing of that it'll be there and then it won't be there, and you don't know when you're going to find it. That whole thing is why I still 100% still believe in buying an actual physical copy of films, because then you have it forever. Then you don't have to look for it anymore. It's a good feeling.
Oh yeah, especially with Lenny. Oh yeah, I want to own this real bad.
Like finding Norma Ray at Half Price Books, I still think about that. I still think about the odds of finding that, and it's just
yeah, I want to steal that from you. I love that movie. Yeah. Norma Ray is definitely one of those that falls under the same boat as Lenny for the show, where you seek it out, you find it, holy shit, it's worth it.
damn straight.
So cool.
Let's jump around to original screenplay, the one that Chinatown did win.
Yes.
Against Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, The Conversation, Day for Night, and Harry and Tonto. So not the films I would have expected over here, but I guess that's because the other films are adapted.
Exactly. And this is where I feel like I lack most within 1974 and this 47th Academy Awards is I have not seen Harry and Tonto. I have not seen Day for Night, and I have not seen Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore in a long time. So, yeah, just kind of lacking as far as something to say here. Chinatown and Conversation, I like both. I would give Chinatown the win slightly over The Conversation, but I can't speak about the other three, and I hate that.
Yeah, I hate that too. But honestly, Chinatown's biggest strength is its story, so I don't see anything beating it anyway.
I've heard Day for Night is real good, and of course, I want to check that one out. Harry and Tonto, we'll bring that up later because it gets a win, a very important win, and I just that blows me away so I got to see it.
Yeah, and I am attempting to cross out my Scorsese list once and for all, so I do want to check out Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. There's only like 6 of his films I still have to watch.
That's the good feeling.
Yeah, I haven't done that since I think Lynch. I think he was the last guy I did that. We still have that one Inland Empire. I still have to watch that. My dad owns that, by the way.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
very nice.
He said he's gonna mail it to me so I can.
You're not gonna like it. Yeah, I don't.
I know. I'm another 2.5 hours of Lynch just stroking his own fucking ghost dick or some shit. I don't need that. But I'm a completionist. I'm gonna have to.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it.
Moving to Best Director. This is all right. We have Roman Polanski for Chinatown, Francois Truffaut for Day for Night, Bob Fosse for Lenny, John Cassavetes for A Woman Under the Influence, and their winner, Francis Ford Coppola for The Godfather Part 2. Christ, I don't even know how you make this decision. I mean, I do not want to give it to Polanski for obvious reasons, but I do think he would have, Coppola deserves this. Coppola deserves this big time. And I think his only rival here, I haven't seen Day for Night or Woman Under the Influence, but I do think that Bob Fosse did have a shot at this for Lenny.
Yeah, I agree. I think Fosse and Cassavetes. Now, of course, I've been kind of dying to bring this movie up. Boy, 2.5 hours of attack on the senses drama within a family. John Cassavetes directing, and this guy, we talked about Mr. John Huston being a guy who can kind of do it all. John Cassavetes, holy shit, this guy can do it all. Of course, we've talked about Rosemary's Baby. He's one of the stars of that film alongside Mia Farrow. And I've recently, kind of gone down that road with Cassavetes, and I've watched Mikey and Nikki and, this film, A Woman Under the Influence, starring Jenna Rowlands. And it's like, for real, man, it is brutal, so far up my alley that it kind of scared me because I was, trying to pick a movie to watch for this, for extra perspective on this show, this ceremony, the 47th Academy Awards. And I got on Criterion and I just typed in 1974. And this one and Amarcord came up, and I was like, okay, these are the two I'll watch, And Amarcord actually came out in 1973, but it competed at this Oscars, and both of them awesome. But A Woman Under the Influence totally deserves this nomination, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I've only seen it one time. But I think he's in the conversation as well with Fosse and Francis. It is not nearly as I'll say the scale. The scale is not nearly as high, as The Godfather Part 2, or even Lenny. To be quite frank, it is moving inside of our house a lot. Moves, simple stuff like some folks riding in a pickup truck. Things that we've seen like Noah Baumbach do. And these modern guys that we kind of have fallen for that are totally paying homage to guys like Cassavetes, who just completely, even when film was weird and changing and doing things differently, he still went against the current and still made things even more weird and different than that. And so you watch something like Chinatown, you're like, damn, they don't make movies like this anymore. Watch A Woman Under the Influence. They really don't make shit like that anymore. They really don't. And what's happening in that movie is incredible for it to happen for 2.5 hours. And I could go on and on, but I'll finish up by saying I watched the film and then I realized that on the Criterion channel, Bill Hader has an adventures in movie going section, and he chose one of his movies is A Woman Under the Influence. And so I, watched him. It's a little 3-minute bit where he talks about what he loves about it. And I highly recommend people do that. It was really cool to see a guy like Bill Hader, who's clearly trying to move into that kind of like creating part of the game with TV and, hopefully movies and whatnot throughout his career. And to hear him say that is really cool. And as a fan of just things happening now and things that happened then, I was really, really blown away by this film. And I think it totally belongs in this category. Connor, you got to see A Woman Under the Influence. It'll rock you. I think it is a little too long. It's 2.5 hours, but I think it hits a few times. It really, really hits, and it's totally worth the ride, man. I can't wait for you to see it.
Right on, man. Yeah. Cassavetes. I've heard you talk about him a lot. He's a guy you've really kind of fallen in love with. And I definitely, I'd like to check out his work for sure.
He's fucking cool. He's like, he's one of the cool guys of the 60s and 70s. That's really, again, going against the current, even when the current was weird. Awesome.
Killer. So who is your final pick for director?
Oh, Bob Fosse. I think, if I agree with you that the stage here is magnificent, but I think Fosse is doing the most interesting stuff here and the most unique directing, the most standalone. It's so distinct. And I give it to him for that. And I think that's why Cassavetes also rivals those two guys.
All right. Fair enough. Good. Yeah. I'm still with Coppola. I think Coppola is doing magnificent things with The Godfather 2. And
he is. Yeah.
Telling a story that, two stories at once that flow together so well. Making you hate someone you used to love, Michael Corleone, the hero really of the first Godfather. You get to see him become a monster. And you believe it. It's Coppola. I'm glad he took this. I'm glad he took it. Best actress.
Oh boy.
We have Diane Carroll for Claudine, Faye Dunaway for Chinatown, Valerie Perrine for Lenny, Gina Rollins for A Woman Under the Influence, and the winner, Ellen Burstyn for Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. I wish I'd seen more of these films. I don't have much to say beyond Chinatown and Lenny.
Yeah, I can't speak for the winner here, Ellen Burstyn, too much, and I can't speak for Miss Carroll for Claudine. But Faye Dunaway is wonderful in Chinatown.
Yeah,
Valerie Perrine is taking on some heavy shit that Dustin Hoffman's putting on, and she's going toe to toe with him in this movie at times, and is quite impressive. And Jenna is, for what I know, she's my pick. I don't think it's really close. She's definitely what makes A Woman Under the Influence the memorable movie that it is. I don't really even know where to. There's so much happening. What she's doing in that performance, it's like it's borderline, freaky how good it is. The stuff she's doing with her face and the movements, the cadence. I couldn't believe it. I really encourage people to seek out films like Lenny, A Woman Under the Influence. These are game changers in the 70s for, kind of hipsters in the 70s. This is the kind of shit they were watching, and I think it's cool to check that shit out.
Yeah, definitely. There's always, I love that after the Hays Code was abolished, you finally got to see people experiment. And
yes, exactly.
The 60s and 70s are full of experimentation, and there's films that not a lot of people know about that are, deserve to be watched. I hadn't seen, Lenny. I'd never seen it, and now I think it's fantastic. It does take, watching the movie to finally appreciate all this shit. It really does. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, just set aside a couple hours, appreciate the craft, and you just it opens up a can of worms, opens up doors for you to just kind of learn stuff, seek things out, and it can change you. It can alter the way you feel about stuff if you watch enough and see the right stuff. And I truly believe that. I really feel that way, and I think this award show just offers so much amazing cinema.
It really does. It really does. My vote goes to Faye Dunaway for a number of reasons, mostly because she's not playing who you think she's playing. At the end of this film, you're treated to a number of revelations, and you have to look back at the performance Faye Dunaway is giving, and you see so much secret pain, so much hidden, just horrible shit she's buried. And knowing that, it makes her performance so fucking layered and so impossible to ignore. A second, third viewing of this film really makes you appreciate Faye Dunaway more than anybody, I think. And I'm glad she won it eventually for Network, but I wish she'd taken it for this.
I feel you on that. I feel you. I love Faye, man. She's awesome actress, and another person I can't wait to just keep seeing. Keep discovering roles that she's done. And I have no problem with, if she would have won, I had no problem. I like you said, I wish we had more perspective on this category. Certainly Ellen Burstyn is someone that we believe in.
Yes.
And I totally understand that she won, and I think it's just past due for me to watch that movie. And like you said, it's one of the last 6 you need to see of Scorsese's work. So, well, maybe we'll do it on the show one day.
Yes, indeed. That's the cool thing about this show. Anything goes, as long as it's got that nomination.
Exactly. Yep.
Now let's get to the one that is the most unbelievable of this entire Oscars, Best Actor. We have Albert Finney for Murder on the Orient Express, Dustin Hoffman for Lenny, Jack Nicholson for Chinatown, Al Pacino for The Godfather Part 2, and the winner, Art Carney for Harry and Tonto. So I have not seen Harry and Tonto, but I can tell you right now, this is wrong. I mean, Christ.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say here. This is one of those stacked categories where you have some titans of the game all in one year, in their prime too. We have 3 guys who are kind of a part of a class, right? When you look at actors and their generations and whatnot, and Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson, and Al Pacino are certainly looked at as on this whole another level. And I think Albert Finney is a name that is a tier below. Like, not everybody knows exactly who he is, like those other 3, but he's right there. His skill is there. I believe his talent is there, but I don't think the general public knows his name like those other 3 guys.
True, but the people who
do know, it's a powerful generation.
But the people who do know Albert Finney, they respect the hell out of his craft, and they know what he's capable of.
No, I think his skill level is just as high as the other 3. I think there's a lot of guys who belong in that conversation, but as far as recognition, people can name Dustin Hoffman movies like that. Jack Nicholson, Al Pacino. These are kind of titans of the game. Hollywood, like monsters. Albert Finney is an actor. I really find it hard to believe that Art Carney is doing anything in Harry and Tonto that is justified as whatever. It's hard to say this, but better acting and Michael Corleone or Lenny Bruce or JJ Gittes. I just don't believe it. I don't really believe it. Or even Hercule, even Albert Finney, I would give the win over this for sure. And I think all four of them do just a great job. And I apparently need to see fucking Harry and Tonto.
Yeah, well, it could be the most incredible performance we've ever seen. It could be.
Yeah.
It has to be to beat those four guys. But to me, this was the Oscar Al Pacino should have taken home. This is the one he absolutely should have had for Michael Corleone. And yeah, that's really all there is to it for me. I love Jack, but Al Pacino became Al Pacino because of this movie. Like, this is the movie that made him the powerhouse, super respected titan of an actor that he became. And it's a well-deserved accolade. And I just really wish that the record reflected that.
I hear you. And I think I agree with you on every front, except that I think Dustin Hoffman should have won. Al Pacino, agreed, is, you have Serpico wedged in between Godfather Part 2, and then the dude just explodes into a whole new stratosphere. There's no disputing that. But if I'm giving the award out, I think Dustin Hoffman is going to the greatest lengths here out of this group from what I've seen, and gets pretty scary what he's doing, embodying this real person. Pretty freaky. And Al Pacino, maybe it's because it's not even his fault. It's like The Godfather Part 2. Maybe this is something I'm just kind of learning as the show goes along, is like, I love it. I think maybe people who are listening think I don't love it because I'm not giving any of the awards to it. I think maybe it has a similar thing that something newer, like Fight Club, where it's just kind of been around my life kind of for a long time. And maybe I get too used to it. Maybe I take it for granted. Maybe I don't quite realize, when I'm watching these 74 movies for the first time and I'm recognizing their greatness at age 25, whereas The Godfather's just kind of been there. Maybe I've a little bit taken that for granted. That's very possible. And I think that's something that I'll always kind of battle with and reckon with in my movie mind. When you watch something new, I know this is something I thought about when I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was like, for a second, I was like, best Tarantino movie ever. And you just like, calm down, you need to watch movies, multiple times. And so maybe that's where my brain is at, is kind of like, I've seen Lenny twice and I've seen Godfather Part 2 a lot, a lot of times. And maybe because it's fresher, maybe that's why I right now like the performance more in Lenny from Dustin Hoffman. But there's no way for me to justify it being better than what Al Pacino's doing. You know what I mean?
You broke my heart, Austin. You broke my heart. No, I totally get what you're saying. Godfather 2 has its audience. There's a lot of people who say it's the definitive one of the franchise. It's the greatest movie of all time. I don't think so. I think, Godfather 1's a 10, Godfather 2's an 8. I think Godfather 2 is way too long. I think it has some drag moments. I think it's a little confusing at times. Yeah, no arguments there. I totally understand that. And Dustin Hoffman's doing amazing work in Lenny. He really is transforming. And it really is just, this year is so fucking tough to pick a winner. Everyone was a winner. Everyone was worthy of a statue this year. It's insane.
we're gonna run into this almost every year in the 70s. Is like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, we did a really fun episode on Five Easy Pieces where we got to talk about that and Patton. The other nominees for Best Picture that year, not the best, but those two movies, are awesome. And then as you move into the 70s, it just gets better and better. And we did Kramer vs. Kramer, 1979 Best Picture winner. And we both felt strongly about all 5 of those films, pretty much the same way we feel strongly about these 5 films. And that's fucking special, man. That's rewarding when you are as obsessed with this stuff as we are, and kind of tracking it and seeing what it's all about, and seeing how much money it made, seeing what it was recognized with, and who won that, and and how it affected their careers. When you, like you said, the most important thing is watching the films, right? And when you do that, and you do it with these, and you essentially get a high fucking 5, like, hey, the art's actually really good too. You're gonna have a good time while doing it. It's not gonna just be some kind of homework. It's gonna be fun, because at the end of the day, sitting down and being in the thick of, in the middle of Lenny is like, that's what I live for. Being in the middle of the conversation, being in the middle of Godfather Part 2 and saying, God, I actually think this is a little too long. All of those things. I love that stuff. All of those little surrounding conversations. And this is why we do it. So it's a great way to distract ourselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. God knows we need some of that. Let's go to Best Picture. This is going to be a very interesting discussion here. We've got Chinatown, The Conversation, Lenny, The Towering Inferno, and the winner, The Godfather Part 2. And this is a year where any of those 5 could have taken this. And thoughts.
Well, Towering Inferno, really good. Lenny, really good. Conversation, really good. Chinatown, absolute classic. And Godfather Part 2, really good. My vote is Chinatown for this award. But like you said, had any of these won, I wouldn't be upset at all. I wouldn't be like, oh, that's stupid. But it does make sense that Godfather Part 1 and 2 won. 72 and 74. It makes sense. And I'm cool with that. You got the Sting wedged in between. Awesome movie. Can't wait to do that one day. I'm cool with that. For like cinematic history and all, I think it's kind of cool that Godfather 1 and 2 both won Best Picture. I think it looks kind of clean, right? When you look down the line, you're like, hell yeah, that's a fucking, awesome film, and then a sequel. That's pretty special to see. But I think Chinatown's the better movie, my man. I really do. And I think I have a guess where you're going to go with this. I actually think you're going to take a left turn on the audience here. I don't think it's The Conversation, and I don't think it's Lenny. I think The Towering Inferno is your horse.
Well, so of this 5, I do think the weakest film is The Conversation, but that is only because I've seen it once, and it just, to me, it does not stand on the rest of these films, but it's still an 8.
It's awesome. It's so good. Gene Hackman is fucking awesome in it. Yeah. Cool film.
To me, that spot should be taken by Young Frankenstein. That's what I would give Best Picture to if I had, the whole year to pick from. But of these 5, I too would go Chinatown.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think because I got to be honest here. I've read your reviews here, and I know you gave Towering Inferno, what was it, a 9?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would give it an 8 personally. I think it's very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. But I think the Towering Inferno had a couple of things that I like just kind of maybe I looked into, and I just kind of, maybe you can, help me out here. It'd be Fred Astaire's character.
Yeah.
His name is Harley, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So his character I see as kind of a
pointless.
Yeah, very, very. And the girl pays while he lives. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I was kind of like, what's the, like, I don't know, maybe I like looked into it too deep, but I was just like, what's the point of this character? He's up for best supporting actor. And there's a lot of other cool shit happening. Hell, OJ Simpson's character is more interesting. So like, I don't know, man. I really enjoyed it. I really was pretty locked in the whole time. I think there's like a couple moments where I could see it dragging, but it didn't for me. It kind of was like, oh shit, no, it kind of picked back up, and just awesome. Again, awesome film editing there. But there, yeah, there's just like a couple of things like that narrative wise that I was just kind of like, that was I don't know about that. Like symbolism wise, I don't know. And because it was for sure operating as a disaster film, and it certainly had its place for here's the heroes and here's the people who like are definitely not trying to help. And sometimes it felt like it didn't know exactly who was good and who was bad and who was pointless. But man, overall, I was very impressed, and I'm really glad I finally got to see it because I've kind of like, I look over this shit all the time. And, I've always seen Towering Inferno is at the bottom of here at the category. And I'm like, what is that? What is the Towering Inferno? I've heard things about these other movies. I know Lenny's this, Dustin Hoffman movie that nobody can fucking get to. But Towering Inferno was one where I was like, what is that? Just kind of like always, I'm glad I finally have it. It's, and it's something I really enjoyed. And Paul Newman, you gorgeous son of a bitch, man. he is the exact same for me as I feel about Brad Pitt. I'll watch that guy all damn day.
For sure. The Towering Inferno, for me, is the ultimate consequence of man's hubris. It's the ultimate, this is the bed you made, now fucking burn in it. You fucked up, you cut corners, and now everything you care about is going to die, regardless of whether or not these are good people or bad people. These are just people trapped in a monstrous nightmare situation. And that's the vibe I got from this movie is this could happen to anybody at any time if you're in a building that's fucking wired incorrectly. So I didn't see it as like a character-driven movie. That's very much an effects-driven movie. And I'm okay with that. I judged it by the way it made me feel and the way it made me react. I was like, I had my heart was racing at times. I was like on the edge. I was literally on the edge of my seat. Like, oh shit, are they going to make it? Like I cared. And that is a huge sign of a great movie to me. If it can make me actually like react like that physically, then I know I'm watching something special. And the Towering Inferno did that.
Hell yeah. I love that. So intense at times. Jesus.
Beautiful. My review of Chinatown, I wrote almost 7 years ago, my sophomore year of college. The first time I watched Chinatown. I have intentions to write a new review in the way I feel about it today. And I still think I think it deserves Best Picture over The Godfather 2. I think Chinatown's a more complete film, a more streamlined film, a more risky film. And I think it is trying something new while also celebrating what came before. And that's all the landmarks of a great movie that deserves Best Picture.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with you, man. I think I kind of agree with you on all counts here. I think the conversation is the weakest link, but it is not weak.
Yeah.
And I think Towering Inferno, Lenny, and Godfather all have something to say. But I think Chinatown is superior. It moves like fucking silk at times. Like, and like you said, with the occasional shout out and homage to, old Hollywood. And that's like what it's all about, with the Oscars certainly love to celebrate that. So I bet it was really tough, in the room, you're voting and it's like, damn, this movie that just kind of celebrates what movie making is, and then Godfather Part 2, which is just, in most people's eyes, like you said, one of the, 5 or 10 greatest films of all time. So it's one of the years where it's a legitimate race. And, this kind of concludes our 47th Academy Awards talk as far as bringing all these films up. It is just a stacked year.
It's like
a year that people should research, and just kind of check out random stuff.
It's like you've got $500 bills, but one of them's a bit crumpled. You've still got $100. Like that's the way I look at it.
I agree. I think they're all solid. I think if we'll go through them, just kind of like, let's get like a proper ranking for each of us, since we definitely think Chinatown's the winner. Who would be second place, or what would be second place?
Second place for me is Towering Inferno.
Okay, I think I would go with Lenny, number 2. And then I go, oh man, between Godfather Part 2 and Towering Inferno for 3 and 4 is very tough for me.
Fair enough.
I think I'd go Towering Inferno 3, Godfather Part 2 4, and Conversation 5.
I would go, all right, so 1 to 5, we've got, for me, Chinatown, Towering Inferno, Godfather 2, Lenny, The Conversation.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So yeah, our 2, 3, and 4 are different, but our 1 and 5 are the same. Okay, that makes sense, kind of the meat of it. Yeah, man, I had so much fun just kind of living in 1974 for a little bit. Amarcord, I feel like I didn't talk about it enough. It is basically like an autobiographical film directed by Federico Fellini. If the guy, his legacy speaks for itself. I've only seen 2 of his films now, which would be that Amarcord and 8.5. Both of them kind of shocked me, and I understand why he has the acclaim that he does, and I'll definitely continue to look through his stuff, because he's not only is he looked at as like the greatest Italian director of all time, but he's got a shit ton of Oscar nominations, directing and writing. And La Strada is the first proper film to win Best Foreign Film. So I think it'd be cool to do that one day. And I think Amarcord would be a film that we could rewatch and talk about. It's really good stuff, man. This year is riddled. This year is riddled with cool shit.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Fantastic.
I love it, man. I want to ask you, what is your rating of Chinatown before we give our awards out for Chinatown? What's your actual number rating for Chinatown? It's obviously a 10 for me. I kind of, it's like one of my 10 or 20 favorite movies of all time. So yeah.
I think it's been an 8 for a very long time, but this most recent watch really had me kind of analyzing it in a new light and understanding new things about this film. And I think it's time. I think I'm pushing it over to a 9.
Hell yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
I like to hear that.
Beautiful.
That's awesome. All right, man. This is, the best part of the show here. Giving out the Tarantino, giving out the Ennio, giving out the PSH, giving out the Deacons. This is what we love to do. We love to give out awards of our own for a specific film. And of course, Chinatown is the subject today. Tarantino, if this is your first time, again, thank you. The Tarantino Award is for best quote or best line. The Ennio Morricone Award is for best music moment or best needle drop, or what have you. The PSH, Philip Seymour Hoffman Award, is for the best performance of the film. And the Roger Deakins Award is for the best moment or best scene. Connor, take it away with your Tarantino.
This one took me, I had a couple, and then...
No kidding, yeah.
A line towards the end scared me. And I thought, shit, I'm putting that down. And it's said by Noah Cross when, when Jake confronts him about killing Hollis and the whole situation with Evelyn. And the way Noah justifies all this is one of the scariest quotes I've ever heard in a film. And he says, "See, Mr. Gitz, most people never have to face the fact that at the right time and the right place, they're capable of anything." And it's the way he pronounces that last word. He like whisper screams it at Jack. And it's fucking terrifying. Like, this guy's a monster. And I love that line so much because it basically describes his entire philosophy of like, if I have opportunity, I will fuck up whatever I want. It's terrifying.
Yeah. And, the character is a guy who wants to control water. I mean, that is evil in itself, a thing we need to survive. Noah Cross. John Huston has one of my favorite like heat check performances, where a movie that I watched that's, a more modern film, A History of Violence. William Hurt has this just abrupt fucking badass, like bam, right in your face performance, right? At the end of that film. And I feel similarly about this John Huston performance, where he just kind of, as Cross, he just pops up in these moments, and you don't need him for long because he is pure evil. Oh man, yeah, great pick, man. I certainly, as the film was ending, a couple of things he says just kind of rung in my brain. He's absolutely frightening, and we might be talking about him later. He's damn good. My Tarantino goes to Mr. Jack Nicholson. As Jake Gittes. He's speaking to Lieutenant Escobar. They're having a bit of an argument. It's later in the film, and things are heating up in the case that Gittes is, quite frankly, he's just chasing something that's right in front of him, right? and he's speaking to Escobar. He says, "I don't think I need a day or two. You're dumber than you think I think you are." Oh man. And you talked about John Huston's, delivery on certain words. That's Jack's game. That's what Jack's lived off of, is a common sentence spoken by me is one thing, but a common sentence spoken by Jack Nicholson is a whole nother thing, is a whole nother ball game. It's in a different sport. So I was blown away even more this time rewatching it than ever with his cadence. Jack Nicholson, in that same scene, he talks about why his nose is the way it is. And it's because, your wife crossed your legs a little too quick. You know what I mean, pal? The way he says pal is like, oh my God, it's Jack Torrance. Jesus Christ. He's created a canon of performances, Jack Nicholson, that there's about 1,000 quotes. You ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? All of these things you can look right here in Chinatown. He's perfecting all of it in this movie, figuring it all out. And he's like, I'm about to unleash this shit. I live 300 yards away from 4,000 Cubans who are trained to kill me. He's setting up a career with this movie, with his early 70s run that is so special, maybe the best ever. And one of my favorite quotes that I've kind of held on to this one. I don't think I need a day or two. You're dumber than you think I think you are. I've always wanted to put that on a shirt. It's a great line. That's my Tarantino.
Oh, fantastic. I almost went with that exchange for my Tarantino as well. It was the setup where I don't remember the exact dialogue, but Escobar tells him, like, maybe like take a, like, you think I'm stupid, like, to take a week to decide or something. He's like, I don't need a week or something like that. Yeah. There was a whole thing. That whole exchange is fucking perfect.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's very cunning, and yeah, these two guys are just like, you just fucking peacocking that shit. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I had before, it was another thing Noah Cross said when they first met. I'm trying to find it in the quotes here. All right, yeah, he said, "Of course I'm respectable. I'm old. Politicians, ugly buildings, and horrors all get respectable if they last long enough." I almost had that one.
Unbelievable. Again, the delivery on that one is, it's pretty incredible from Mr. Huston.
Oh, it's beautiful. All right, I fucked up the other line I was going to say. So Escobar says, "You must really think I'm stupid, don't you, Gittes?" And Gittes says, "I don't think about it that much, but give me a day or two and I'll get back to you." God, yeah, Jack is at his best when he's playing a smartass.
I don't think I need a day or two. Yeah. When he's telling the joke and Faye Dunaway is right behind him. I mean, unbelievable.
Dude, the laugh there, it's the fucking Joker. Pure Joker, right there. That laugh is the Joker's laugh.
He's I can't remember the fella's name, but he I think his name's Russell. He's like, God, Russell, why are you in such a goddamn hurry all the time? It's like, let me tell you the joke. Calm down. Come on. God, I mean, where I stand with Jack is like, I truly don't know which of the three, Jack Torrance, McMurphy, and then right here as Giddies, I really don't know which one I liked the most. He's just so fucking good in all three. There's not an actor I feel that the same way about with three films that are just, I don't know. I truly don't know which one I like the most. They rotate after whichever one I watched last. It's an amazing thing to experience as a fan to really, he has all this acclaim, of course, but to really latch onto the work is something else.
He really is committed. Even in goofy shit like Mars Attacks, he's he's doing a dual role performance as the president and this dumbass casino owner. You believe it. It's just his commitment is unmatched. He's got a few paycheck gigs throughout his career, but not many. And even in the paycheck gigs, he delivers. He's one of those. Yeah, he's one of those guys.
Yeah, man. I love the dude. Obviously, could talk about him all day. And he also may get brought up again. The Ennio Morricone Award. This is we'll bring up Jerry Goldsmith again. He's just a awesome name that I'm glad we're able to bring up on this episode specifically, and his work on here is captivating to say the least. Good Lord.
It is remarkable. And he had me at hello. My music moment is literally the opening credits.
Fair enough. Honestly, you could just put the DVD on. Like, I have this on Blu-ray, I could just put it on and just leave it on like the main menu screen. Just let it play. I'll fall asleep. It's just such a gorgeous, great choice. You can't go wrong.
Beautiful. It reminds me so much of a 40s gangster film. Like, I can picture, Bogey and Bacall driving down Sunset to this music. And it's beautiful. I love that. Those little nods that celebrate, lets the audience know this is a love letter to a bygone era. And that's just the best.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. You can't go wrong. I listened to this entire score at work today just to kind of, it made me feel good. I was able to just kind of do some busy type work and just kind of zone out for a little bit. And that was really special. It was cool because, like you said, it reminds you of a specific thing about cinema, and take me there, over and over and over again. You brought up, 40s. It's an era that I don't know enough about, but it's certainly an era I've been trying to explore, you and I both, and we're really open to doing that through this show. And then now just on our own, we just want to do that. We want to see more stuff from different decades, and for Chinatown to kind of be this timeless thing where you don't know what year it came out. When you watch it, with everything's fucking got all these different editions and Blu-ray and all this stuff in 4K and everything looks so beautiful. I have like no idea what year Chinatown came out until I know. And that's a testament to the sound and the feeling that you have, when all those things are happening at once. And that's so damn special. That's because of the piece you chose. And I think if you're going to give an Ennio, I think that's the piece that that should get it. I wrote down the same thing, but I also wrote down another one in case you chose it. So I'll go with what I think is the most frightening piece of score within the film. That's the title of that piece is The Captive. And it is the moment that Noah Cross is like, give me the motherfucking glasses, and the music gets very intense. It heightens to a whole different degree that we haven't seen yet. And then the movie gets very dark fast and then ends dark fast. And I feel like The Captive, it's right there you got about 10 minutes left in the film and The Captive plays. and Noah Cross is in control, and you're like, oh my god, no, like no, like Giddys is not in control of the situation anymore, and it's very frustrating and unforgiving. And one of the reasons the movie still stands so strong, because it holds on to that. It holds on to being different and taking those left turns. And I love that, man. I love that so much. And I think The Captive sends it on that way. It's the piece of score that kind of changes direction in the entire film. And I love that touch. So cool.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, it is a huge sudden left turn, and it does not hold back in those last 10 minutes. It is unreal how far this movie sinks to just upset you.
Yeah, just defeated.
Incredibly defeated. And it's this whole idea of Chinatown being the place where bad things go, the place where bad things happen, the place where Jake has no control. That's why the last 10 minutes of this film takes place in Chinatown, because it represents a dark place that Jake's been trying to get out of for the last like 10 something years. And now he's back in that dark place. And this is something he'll never get over.
Yeah, man. Incredible stuff. And of course, that is something that's been so influential in film for the past fucking 45 years is that exact thing that a character goes through. And when the director, filmmaker, writer, whoever decides to not show us that past, to not give us an insight into that past, that he's just a troubled soul, that there's an actual place that causes him harm. And that's like, we love that. We love that as audience members with our hero. If there's a place that's like, oh fuck, it's like, yeah, but you got to go there, bitch. Like in Batman, something that's, huge and really popular nowadays is like that moment in Dark Knight Rises when it's like, I got to go back to Gotham and take care of shit. It's like those moments, we live for that shit. We live for it. And even if it's not a fun revisit, we want it. We want them to go back home, go take on this challenge, go back to this former place. And with Giddys, we don't even know, man. We don't even know why he hates it. And that wonder, that leaves it to the imagination. It's something that's so cool. And of course, something that's going to get messed with. David Fincher's been in talks to do something with a prequel to the Giddys character. Something's going to happen. It's just too pristine of a movie to not be touched in the future. Someone's going to mess with it. And if it's going to be messed with, I would hope someone like Fincher does it.
Yeah. I can't say I'm looking forward to that. I like the mystery.
I don't know if it's true. It's been a rumor for some time.
I've heard that too. I've heard that they've talked about doing a prequel to Chinatown.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of him just having a dark past, him knowing he was in a bad place, bad shit happened and it was his fault. And he's been trying in his own way to kind of make amends for that. And that's why he's so invested in solving this murder, is he wants to do something right. And to take that away from him is so emotionally devastating. We're not used to that. We're used to everything working out, but to have that snatched away really makes this film unforgettable.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, that just right there, where this conversation went, just out of talking about music moments, how impactful a touch, a decision in Chinatown, how it just affects the entire, product altogether, and how you and I have totally, put on a new lens when we're watching these films, and we're really trying to see this stuff. We're trying to catch it, and see it before we read it. We're trying to like really witness the film, witness the artwork first, and I've been really appreciating that. I've been really digging that journey, and Chinatown is it's like one of the more influential and powerful films we've covered on this show. We've done Citizen Kane, we've done some big stuff. I think Chinatown's right there.
For sure, yeah, this is a big one. People look back on this one as one of the top 10, top 25 of all time. There's an argument made for that, and it was hugely influential to not just the careers of everyone involved, but to what films would come out in the 80s. people, I'd say, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, huge influence, like from Chinatown. Eddie Valiant is a he's Jake Gittes if he worked around cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
exactly. Gotta love it. Yeah, gotta love it, man. This is always a fun award to give out, even if we just totally agree or totally disagree. The Philip Seymour Hoffman Award. This is for, what we see as the best performance, someone who kind of won the movie, stole the movie. Who do you got?
I think you should go first on this one.
Okay, that's fair. I thought about a lot of people. I'm not just talking. I damn near was like gonna get cute and give it to someone involved that's not even an actor. But then I was like, no, that's not what the award's for. It's a performance award. Don't be stupid, Austin. That's what the whole show is for, is to recognize multiple people. This award is for the best performance. And again, I thought about a few people here, but I would be stupid to not give it to Jack Nicholson, to not give it to Gittes, this guy who, from the get-go, dealing with Curly to the end, the devastation he sees and that he has to process and deal with, and him just walking off like in the middle of a crowd. I think I would be trying to be too cute if I didn't personally choose him. This is a role and performance that's been very, very dear to my heart since the day I saw it. And I love what Faye Dunaway's doing. I love what John Huston's doing. But I think Jack is kind of the king of this one.
No argument here. This is his movie above all else, and it's an amazing performance. He's smarmy. He's an asshole, but you like him, and that's his shtick. That's what Jack's been doing his whole career, is playing dicks you can't help but like. And I love that. But to me, it's Faye Dunaway.
Wow. Okay. I love it. Let's hear it.
The character of Evelyn Mulwray is a broken woman. She's a shattered woman who's been abused in the worst way possible, raped by her own father and forced to bear his child. I mean, what the fuck? But there's such strength in that character that she's unwilling to give up. She wants to solve her husband's murder. She wants to take care of her sister daughter. Ugh. And you believe that she can do it. You believe that she's strong enough to overcome this. And to the very end, you believe that until the cops blow her brains out. It's such a strong performance because, like I said earlier, you think about what you've seen up to this point when you find out about the big revelation. And a second, third watch shows you just how strong she is and what she's fighting at all times to just stand up and do something. And I respect the hell out of that. And I respect the layered performance. And I'm blown away by how effortless Faye Dunaway makes it look.
Ah, man, I love it. I think that's great insight. That's a great way to see this performance. And I think, even personally, you do get kind of, distracted by how Jack gets all this praise and is this, just superstar. But what Faye is doing, and we've brought it up a few times, just her facial expressions alone are so authentic and so goddamn real. Faye Dunaway for the win this week. How about that? Towering Inferno and Chinatown. So cool.
It just looks like at all times she's like using every last bit of energy she has just to stand up and face people. Like she could break at any moment, but she's choosing not to. I love that strength. So yeah, I couldn't ignore that.
I love it. That's what the award's all about. We did something similar on our apartment episode where I chose Jack Lemmon, you chose Shirley MacLaine, and we both saw that they were both essential to the film just being what it is, and that chemistry being there. That's really cool. Well, the award of the night, the Deacons, the Roger Deacons. Oh man, this is gonna be fun. What do you think? What do you see as the best scene of this movie?
To
So
me,
hard.
to me, it's no contest. It's the ending. It's the
Okay.
last from Noah Cross showing up to confront Giddis to Giddis just walking away from the carnage. That bit is perfection. It's the definitive part of the movie where shit gets real so quick and it gets so out of control, and it's really sad to see this happen. And you feel for Jake. You know, you're like, you're with him. You're like, he almost had it. He almost escaped Chinatown, but you can't escape Chinatown. And that's the whole point of this. Like, bad shit is always going to follow you. You can never get away from that, no matter how much you fight it. In this city, the best thing you can do is fight through it. And Jake's going to have to figure out how to do that.
Only in LA.
Only in LA, regardless of time period in LA.
Oh yeah. No arguments here. I think that is the peak of this movie, and I think it's when you look at it for history's sake with cinema. I think Chinatown has a lot to offer, but its finale is the most unique thing that it has to offer. Most kind of like progressive thing it has to offer for film.
Yeah.
Where it does have that kind of slap in your face ending that doesn't allow you to go out of the theater like, haha, all right. It's very, it's relentless. And I chose something that, when you watch a movie that is, subconsciously, this is one of my favorite movies. And so when I was rewatching Chinatown for this episode, I very much was questioning and playing with things in my head of what is it? What are the moments in this movie that not only do I see as, oh yeah, that's cinematically just like, oh, that's really special, but what are the moments in the movie that push me to the edge of my seat and make me kind of like, wait a minute, this is filmmaking, where you kind of forget what you're doing, kind of forget that you're in the middle of a 2-hour film. And for me, this time around, and it's something that I just gonna hold on to now every time I watch it, is when Giddys and Evelyn sleep together, and she gets a phone call. And first off, incredible stuff from Faye Dunaway on that phone call, and she immediately is like, I have to leave, I have to get up, but I need you to stay here. It's telling Giddys, I need you here. And he's like not having it. Clearly this is not cool. Where are you going? And she goes into the restroom. When she goes in the restroom, he puts his cigarette out, and there's just a real nice shot from behind the bed of Jack as he gets up, puts his pants on, puts his shoes on, and the camera is always moving into whatever's the most interesting thing. Like when he puts his shoes on, it immediately goes to his feet, and then he slides them on, and then he goes outside with no shirt on. His hair's kind of sticking up like Jack Nicholson's hair always does, and then he proceeds to knock out one of the little mirrors in her car, in Evelyn's car. Well, it's actually Evelyn's husband's car, and he's going to decide to take these keys, and he's going to follow her wherever she's going to go. And all of that leading up to him actually getting in the car, because there's a hard cut. Because we know as the audience what's going on. We know what's about to happen. The jig, it's up. The jig is up, and the music heightens, and then we have a nice shot straight into him in his car, and it's him right behind him, and you see the rear view mirror, and you can barely see Evelyn's car, just up ahead. And then they get to where Evelyn's going, and that's when you start finding out more stuff about this other character who is posing as Evelyn earlier in the movie. And when that happens, and you have the classic noir moment of Giddys is looking through the window as she's going through different rooms. So Faye Dunaway's character is in this house, and so Evelyn is moving, and Giddys moves with her from outside the house. And that is like prime time, like spy shit, you know, on a stakeout, all of these things that you just like intensity, thrilling, you know, all these different words that you love about movies. It happens right here in this kind of 8 to 10 minute span in really, really awesome fashion. I held on to that moment from him kind of putting out the cigarette to, you know, figuring out what he's got to do to follow her, get into this other car, and to getting to the spot and kind of being like, oh, I think I know what's going on. He actually has no idea what's going on. And I love that moment. I think it speaks volumes to everyone involved. I think everyone who is involved is doing a great job from you know, a technical standpoint to an acting standpoint, directing, all these things. And I think as good as the screenplay is in this movie, when no one's talking, the movie's just as fucking good. And that's why Chinatown's so goddamn awesome, because in the empty moments and the silence, you're just as intrigued because something else is carrying it through to the finish line. And whether it be the music, whether it be the cinematography, whether it be Roman Polanski's eye, something is carrying it to the finish line. It might just be looking at Jack Nicholson's fucked up nose, but all those things and that scene, it did that hand over fist. Just kind of leveled me when I watched it this time, where I was like, whoa. It's one of those scenes one of those moments, stretches in movies that makes me want to make movies, you know, like I want to do that. That was cool as shit. And, you know, I'm trying to search for these things within these movies for the Deacons, because I agree with you. I think the climax of the movie is the best moment of the movie. But for personal connection and my own Deacons, you know, I felt very strongly about that particular stretch of the film.
Yeah, I can tell. That's the detail you described that, and I could picture it exactly. Insightful, very cool. I like that you honed in on a very kind of not really specific part, just kind of like a sequence of events.
Stretch, yeah.
And yeah, I love, one of my favorite things about this movie is, and you can't really tell until you've seen this movie a few times, is that Jake Gittes is really kind of a terrible detective.
Yeah.
He is constantly on the wrong trail. He accuses like 3 different people of the murder. So sure of himself every time. And in the end, just, you know, fucks up. It's interesting. He's supposed to be our hero. You know, Bogey didn't fuck up, but Gittes fucks up. And that's cool. You know, makes him relatable. The whole, you know, Chinaman joke, you need that. Like, it makes, you know, it reminds you that he's a guy. Just a guy. He's not superhuman. He's not, you know, super insightful. He's just an asshole who used to be a cop who's trying to get paid here.
With an office, yeah.
Awesome. Very awesome.
Yeah, I love it, man. Awesome film. Definitely one of my favorites we've done here. 32 episodes in, but it's just going to get better and better. And, you know, I think next week we're changing up the pace like completely. And it's something that you actually brought up. So I'll let you say what we're going to do next week, because you're the one who kind of threw it out there. And I was like, let's fucking do it.
So this was a film that's kind of been in my peripheral for quite a while. It's a film that I've always wanted to see, specifically because an actress I've always wanted to really kind of dig into is Ingrid Bergman. 3-time Oscar winner, Ingrid Bergman. And the film that she won her first Oscar for is 1944's Gaslight. It's where the term gaslighting came from, which is to make somebody think they're crazy, when in reality, they're not. So this movie, I have not watched this yet. I don't know if you've seen this.
No, I haven't. I don't know much about it at all. I have read a tiny bit about it, but I don't know much, and I'm really excited because it's 1944. So we're going back to a totally different decade, exactly 30 years before Chinatown, and another movie that I know has a powerful influence on the people that are attached to it. So I'm excited to become maybe a part of that fan club and talk about the 17th Academy Awards. Holy shit.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to finally going into Ingrid Bergman's career and talking about her and just getting to explore a movie that I think, from what I hear, was a bit of a game changer back in the mid 40s. So looking forward to Gaslight next week.
Yeah, might do some extra legwork. Maybe watch a little bit of Ingrid extra, maybe watch a couple 1944 films. We'll see. But the main focus is definitely Gaslight, a film that neither of us have seen. So we're going in blind. We've done that a few times on this show before, and it's totally worked out, except for Hamlet. So
even so, though, I am glad we did that because we had those 4 other masterpieces we got to have.
Yes. No, it gave us 4 awesome movies in one not so great.
Don't miss the 1999 remake of The Mummy on the Filmgazm podcast on Wednesday. And of course, more sneak preview on Monday. Thanks for listening to Chinatown. Check it out if you haven't. It is a masterpiece. And we look forward to Gaslight. We'll see you next Sunday.